Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another sports stuff video. Today, we're talking about the Washington Commanders and their offseason plan of how to go from the NFC Championship game to hosting the Lombardi Trophy. So if you guys do enjoy, please do a like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell to be notified when I post next. Let's get into this video. And honestly, guys, this might be my favorite offseason plan I've done so far because they have so much cap space, so much possibility for the future, and they're a Super Bowl contender. I love it. It's fun. Let's get into it. First off, starting at cuts and or trades, they are already at positive $81 million in cap space. So they have a lot of stuff that they can do. And they're in the rumor mill for basically every pass rusher in the NFL. So what I decided to do was, instead of doing the basic answers, I'm going to do a shocking trade. I'm trading for Jeffrey Simmons. So Jeffrey Simmons last year had 50 tackles, 5 sacks, 1 forced fumble, 41 run stops, and 45 pressures. He is currently a 3-4 D tackle, but I think he can make the change to 4-3 defensive ends in certain sets. But Commanders, they run both a 3-4 and a 4-3 depending on what they're doing. So I think he can play no matter what on the field. He's super athletic, generates pressure well at his size, great run stopper as well. This dude has active hands at the line of scrimmage when it comes to batted balls. I believe he was 3rd in the NFL in batted balls at the line of scrimmage. So his active hands, constantly, trying to impact the football game no matter which way. So the trade I decided to do was Washington gets Jeffrey Simmons and Tennessee gets number 61 and a future second. So I do this because Jeffrey Simmons can now try and go and win a Super Bowl. He's 28 years old. He doesn't fit the Titans, rebuild window. So for Jeffrey Simmons, he goes somewhere he can try and compete right now. He gets a pay raise, and the Commanders, they get their pass rusher that they can lock up for the future. And speaking of the future, well, also for Tennessee, they get a 2nd round pick this year at number 61 and a future second. And the trade, after the trade, the contract I'm going to give Jeffrey Simmons is this. So currently, he has 3 years left, but only 1 year with guaranteed money. So what I decided to do was turn that 1 year for $6 million guaranteed. That's all he has left in guarantees. I restructure it to a 4-year, $91.5 million deal, $62.5 million guaranteed at 69%. So the way I did the contract is that it pushes all the money towards the back and doesn't hit for the first few years. So trade for Jeffrey Simmons, a blockbuster trade. It doesn't impact your cap space right now too badly. Only $7 million in 2025 cap and only $20 million in 2026. And then obviously in 27, 28, it does hit above, but it averages out to about $24 million a year. That's exactly what Jeffrey Simmons currently is at, but it gives him way more guaranteed money, right? It gives him over $60 million guaranteed for him over the next 3 years. In that 4th year, if he's kind of fallen off, you can cut him, save $33 million against the cap. But it's basically a 3-year guaranteed deal for Jeffrey Simmons in this window with Jayden Daniels to have a bona fide pass rusher and a really good run stopper as well on the defensive line. Then going into the restructures, I'm going to restructure Deron Payne at D tackle, open up $12.5 million. He's now the number 1 D tackle after you cut Jonathan Allen today. Then Terry McLaurin, obviously a wide receiver 1 for the team. Restructured him for $9 million. And Marshawn Lattimore, you just traded for $12.5 million. You're going to restructure him to be a number 2 corner behind Mikey Sanders still, opening up $34.5 million in cap space. Meaning that you have $98.5 million going in the re-signings for a team that was just in the NFC Championship. Insane, man. First up, a guy I'm re-signing is Jeremy Chin. Jeremy Chin last year had 81 tackles, 1 interception, 35 run stops, and 3 pass breakups. He had a great rebound season in Washington. He was misused in the 3-4 scheme under Ed Rovero in 2023, dropping his stock to where Washington could get him for dirt cheap. And now I think Washington's going to be able to extend him to make sure that they have that strong safety in the future. He's great in the run game. He's active in the pass game. I'm going to bring back the only bright spot on this week's secondary unit. Mikey Sanders still had an okay rookie season, but Benjamin St-Juste was awful. Marshawn Lattimore didn't really play all that much for Washington because of injury. And free safety was hit or miss. So Jeremy Chin, the only consistent guy at strong safety. I want to bring him back on a 2-year, $14.5 million deal, $9.5 million guaranteed at 65% to guarantee that we have a strong safety that we can rely on in the secondary. Then another guy I'm going to be re-signing is Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz, tight end last year, had 66 receptions, 654 yards, and 7 touchdowns. He was a great safety valve for Jayden Daniels. He fits the scheme perfectly, which I know a lot of people were like, wow, he chose the Commanders over the Eagles and other teams. Me. But, he's a great veteran for this offense. He's a former Super Bowl champ. And he said after this season ended that he wishes he was 22 so he could play his entire career with Jayden Daniels. So he likes the team, he likes the quarterback, and I think the team is going to want him to come back. 1 year, $5 million to bring back Zach Ertz at tight end. Then finally, we re-signed is Dyami Brown. In regular season and postseason, he had 44 receptions, 537 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Towards the end of the season and into the playoffs, he really became Jayden Daniels' main first down guy. I do think he earned himself some money this offseason. He has a pretty solid deep game as well, and he was really special for the playoff run. So I want to re-sign him for 2 years, $14 million, $19.5 million guaranteed at 68% guaranteed. So you keep that glue wide receiver. You have Luke McCaffrey. You have Deebo Samuel and Terry McLaurin. That's a pretty okay four-man wide receiver group. They all do different things, and they all bring something to the table. But Dyami Brown, I think it's essential that you bring back a guy that Jayden Daniels trusted late down in the season. And going into free agency, you have $80 million. And again, for a team that is trying to win a Super Bowl this year now, because they know they have the quarterback, they know they have the coach, they know they have the offense and the defense and the GM. All you got to do now is build the team around them and win 2 more games compared to what they won last year in the playoffs. So you got to do it. You got to go for it. And I think this is the year to go for it. So first off, I'm going to be signing Jason Pinnock from the New York Giants. Last year had 62 tackles, 0 interceptions and forced fumbles, 3 sacks and 7 pressures. He's not the best deep safety, but I do like him as a chess piece, as a free safety, strong safety, hybrid linebacker type of guy. But I think, now that he's on a defense that would generate better pressure than the New York Giants last year, I do think he'll have a better year at free safety. He had 14 run stops as well, so he's an active run stop defender. But my main idea is let's steal him from a division rival who currently is on a downward trajectory. Let's grab Jason Pinnock, who I think was being underutilized. It was not as good as he could be. And, once he's on our team, he'll thrive. So I give him a 2-year, $11.5 million deal, $7.25 million guaranteed at 63% guaranteed. So now we have our free safety in Jason Pinnock and strong safety in Jeremy Chin. I'm going to redirect my focus towards pass rusher. And that guy is Joey Bosa. So Joey Bosa last year had 14 tackles, 5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 17 run stops, and 34 pressures. He's been injury-riddled since that 2020 extension that he signed after his rookie contract was going up. The only team that I think would give him a non-incentive large contract is San Francisco. But for me, I think he wants to try and win a Super Bowl. He's going to come to Washington and be the #1 guy for this defense and make a lot of money. So Joey Bosa can earn $40 million year 1 through his incentives. So obviously, I give him a 2-year, $40 million deal. It only shows $22.5 million guaranteed. So that's only about 55% guaranteed. But the reason I don't guarantee a lot of money is it's going to be incentive driven, right? So he can make $7.5 million each year based off incentives that I'm going to make that are attainable, right? I'm going to say, hey, play 15 games, get 8 sacks, make something that motivates him to get those incentives, and he compete for a Super Bowl, right? But year 1, here's what he gets. He gets a $22.5 million signing bonus, so $22.5 million. He gets $12 million guaranteed on his contract, and then another $7.5 million that he can earn in incentives in year 1, equaling $42 million cash he can earn in 2025. And then add in a year after, that is over $60 million, including incentives, that he can earn in 2 years. That is a lot of money that I don't think a lot of other teams will be able to give him. They can also compete for a Super Bowl and has a need for Joey Bosa. I think it's a perfect fit for Joey Bosa. Come to a team that needs a #1 pass rusher, still be that #1 pass rusher that you were drafted to be, and try and win a championship. Then next, I'm going to be signing is Jordan Lewis, the cornerback from Dallas. Last year had 52 tackles, 1 interception, 24 run stops, and 5 pass breakups. Last year was a truly dominant boundary corner for Dallas. He has lots of starting experience. He's great in tackling, but most importantly, he reunites with Dan Quinn. And I think that's going to be an underrated storyline in this offseason, is a lot of Cowboys trying to go to Washington to play with Dan Quinn. And I think Jordan Lewis slots in as one of those guys that couldn't make the transition over. And he slots in as a starter next to Mikey Sanders-Still and Marshawn Lattimore. Because I think Sanders-Still, while he can be an outside corner, I think let him be in the inside, move him to the slot, and have him and Jordan Lewis trade off slot duties, and just let him feast, right? So Jordan Lewis brings experience on the outside at $4.5 million that you can really rely on a veteran that, let's just say Mikey isn't having a great game or Marshawn is still dealing with injuries. Jordan Lewis can play for this defense and know what he's doing. I love it. I think it's a great fit. And the last guy we're having coming over from the Dallas Cowboys is DeMarcus Lawrence. So DeMarcus Lawrence, Last year, had 8 tackles, 3 sacks, 1 forced fumble, 7 run stops, and 9 pressures. He went on IR after week 4, I believe, for a broken foot. It was something about his leg. I don't think it was like Achilles or ACL, though. I think it was a broken foot. But he was having a great year. Opposite Micah Parsons, a great start to the year. In only 3 games, he had 3 sacks, 7 run stops, and 9 pressures. For me, I think he's going to be cashed in one more time, and he doesn't have to start. That's the most important thing. He can cash in for $11 million and does not need to start. He can work the rotation that Dan Quinn sets for him, and it adds another veteran that Dan Quinn has worked with, and I believe it tops off the defensive line. This is the last guy that can be signed on the defensive line this year. But I think most importantly, again, DeMarcus Lawrence can come back, rehab from that injury, does not need to play every snap day one, can get eased back into the lineup, and most importantly, make a playoff push. That's where you really want DeMarcus Lawrence. Him healthy for the playoffs, another dominant edge guy that you can believe in, opposite of Joey Bosa. 1 year, $11 million. I think it's very fair for DeMarcus Lawrence. Then I'm going to take a shot on Jed Wills at right tackle. Jed Wills last year had a 53 PFF grade, 64 pass blocking, 52 run blocking. He's been a bust of a tackle so far. Obviously, lasted the full 5 years of his contract, but he quit on Cleveland midseason because it was very obvious that Cleveland was trying to move on from him. So, he did quit on his team. He allowed 3 sacks and he had 7 penalties last year. That's not great. But my plan for Jed Wills is to move him back to right tackle like he was playing in college. So he obviously, when he got drafted to the Browns, they moved him to left tackle because of a need, and Jed Wills has never looked good at left tackle. He was a first-round pick at right tackle for sure, so I want to see what he can do when he goes back to right tackle for the Washington Commanders. So whether Andrew Wiley beats him in training camp and Jed Wills is just a developed guy behind him and you try and extend him after that, or he beats out Andrew Wiley in camp and now you have your right tackle of the future at $2.5 million. I think this could be the Mekhi Becton of this year, where Mekhi Becton went to the Eagles, got a lot better, is going to get a big contract this offseason. I think Jed Wills could be the exact same story. Come to Washington, play right tackle for me, and we'll develop you and see what we can do. But most importantly, you're going back to your roots, playing right tackle, and that's something he desperately needs. 1 year, $2.5 million for Jed Wills. Next, we're going to be grabbing Brandon Scherff, the guard from the Jacksonville Jaguars. Last year, had a 65 PFF grade, 75 pass blocking, 57 run blocking. Honestly, the most important thing for Brandon Scherff, I think he wants to return home for a swan song year. He wants to return to Washington, where he was drafted, where he played a majority of his career, and have one final year. He allowed 0 sacks last year, and to me, I think he is much better than Nick Allegretti. So Nick Allegretti either moves to backup guard or he's just a backup swing guard for this offense, in case of injury, or you're on the goal line, you want to get another guard in there. And to me, we need to protect Jayden Daniels at all costs. And with Brandon Scherff, with Jed Wills, this caps off the offensive line restructure that they started last offseason, right? They drafted Brandon Coleman at left tackle. You bring in Brandon Scherff at left guard. You have Tyler Biadasz at center. You have Sam Cosmi at right guard. And you have Jed Wills at right tackle. That is what my offensive line restructure would be going into next season, not including anyone that you draft or anyone else that you could re-sign that somehow blooms in the offseason. But for me, it caps off the offensive line, and we want to protect Jayden Daniels at all costs. It was 1 year, $7 million for Brandon Scherff to return to Jacksonville and try and win a Super Bowl. Then I'm going to be signing Keenan Allen at wide receiver. Again, we had a lot of money. I want to use this money on trying to win a Super Bowl, guys. Last year had 70 receptions, 744 yards, and 7 touchdowns for the Chicago Bears. He was a great option for Caleb last year. To me, he's one of the best route runners in NFL history, without a doubt. It brings a different archetype of player as well for this offense. You have Deebo Samuel, who's more the gadget guy, slot guy. Luke McCaffrey in the same vein. Diame Brown, deep threat plus slot guy. And Terry McLaurin, the true wide receiver number 1. Keenan Allen is kind of in the same mode as Tyler Lockett right now. Really good, crisp route runner who's just past his prime and is trying to win a Super Bowl. I think he is still useful. We saw that in Chicago. He's still very useful. He's not the guy he once was, but for 1 year, $13 million, you get him in-house. And again, crisp route runner on the outside is exactly what this offense needs in Keenan Allen. Then the last time we'll be doing is Nick Chubb. It hurts. It hurts. I know. Last year, had 332 yards and 3 touchdowns. He's still recovering from multiple injuries. Honestly, that devastating knee injury from Minka Fitzpatrick. But he also broke his foot against the Chiefs. So, recovering from multiple injuries. Rumors are he is not returning to Cleveland. If that is true, I will cry. I'll be honest with you guys. I'm going to cry if he's not in Cleveland. But when it comes to Washington, he does not need to be the bell cow. You have Brian Robinson to be the running back number 1. You have Austin Eckler and Nick Chubb as the relief backs. And Nick Chubb, he can compete for a Super Bowl and be the home run hitter for this team. Give Nick Chubb 5 to 6 carries in the first, second, and third quarter. In the fourth quarter, Nick Chubb, that's where he's at his best, is when the defense is tired and Nick Chubb can break off a big run, break tackles, and has that home run speed. I think it's exactly the type of offense he could thrive in, where he's not the lead back, but he can be used every single game, multiple times a game. I think it's perfect for Nick Chubb. 1 year, $4.5 million. If this is a route that happens with Nick Chubb, where he leaves Cleveland, I think Washington is a perfect fit for him, especially with this bolstered offensive line. Then going to the draft, you have $19 million in cap space, so you can still go out, you maybe grab a backup quarterback, maybe go and grab another linebacker or something. But I decided to sit on $19 million and feel pretty good about all the signings and restructures that I did. So entering the draft, here's what I do. At number 29, I'm going to grab Josh Connerly from Oregon. This is my tackle for the future, right? So he's either going to be my left tackle or the right tackle of the future. But year one, him and Brandon Coleman, a third-round pick last year who started all year, they can duke it out for left tackle starter. And whoever wins, congratulations, it's awesome. Whoever loses is just your backup. He's a powerful run blocker. He uses his smaller size to his advantage in pass blocking. He's only 21 years old. So if it does turn out that Jed Wills wins at right tackle and Brandon Coleman wins at left tackle, Josh Connerly, like Andrew Wiley, can just be the backup and next year can fight for a starting position somewhere on this offensive line. But again, it's never an issue to have too many good tackles. And the Commanders, they could have that issue with Brandon Coleman, Josh Connerly, Andrew Wiley, and Jed Wills. Then at number 79, grabbing Benjamin Morrison from Notre Dame in corner. This is an absolute steal. You know, former first-round pick falling to his hip injury. Apparently, he did get his hip injury fixed, but I think there's a lot of NFL teams that are worried about it. I'm willing to buy low and get potentially a top 3 corner from this class in the 3rd round. He's a ball hawking corner. He had a 20.5% force and completion rate, which is elite. And I'm very excited to see Benjamin Morrison in the NFL. I think he's probably still going to end up being a 2nd-round pick. You know, number 79 is a little too low for me. I would be shocked if a lot of teams pass on him in the 2nd. But again, former top 3 corner in this class, available at 79. If that's true, you run to the booth, you drop Benjamin Morrison, and you can even let him sit all rookie year. Like, you could let him sit all rookie year because you have Jordan Lewis, Marshawn Lattimore, and Mikey Sanders still. You can let Benjamin Morrison sit and not feel bad about it, and maybe next year he can fight for a starting job. Then at 206, grabbing Caden Prather from Maryland, the wide receiver. He's a big body outside receiver. You know, to be honest with you, I'm just taking shots at a dartboard right now. But he's good against man coverage. He has long arms. He's a big frame, big catch radius. He's 6'3", had over 600 yards the last 3 years. So he knows, he's played a lot of football. And, this wide receiver core is pretty thin. So I want to grab Caden Prather to have a big body outside threat that if you need to, you can throw out there in red zone drills, right? Then 238, you guys know I love Jaylen Walker from Indiana. He's a gem for me. I think he can sit and develop behind Frankie Louvu and Bobby Wagner, but I think he can project to be a 3-down linebacker. He had 7 forced incompletions last year, which was 3rd in college football. I think Jaylen Walker at 238, great run stopper, great coverage guy, is a complete steal, especially because you know that he's going to sit behind Frankie Louvu and Bobby Wagner for at least 1 year. I love that for Jaylen Walker. Then at 250, grabbing Montrell Jackson from Florida, the running back. He's a hard-nosed running back that fights for extra yards. A lot of people are saying he's a poor man Brian Robinson, so why not draft him to Washington? He's good between the tackles. He's also a willing pass blocker, so I think that alone is going to get him drafted and on an NFL roster or a practice squad. That he's a willing pass blocker and he's a hard-nosed runner. I think he's exactly what you would want in a 3rd, 4th down back. So that's my mock draft. Get Josh Connerly, a potential franchise tackle. Benjamin Morrison, a potential franchise corner in the 3rd. You fill out your roster with veterans on 1- and 2-year deals in free agency. Whether it's Nick Chubb, your offensive line, your defensive line, like Joey Bosa, DeMarcus Lawrence, and you re-sign guys that really were helpful for you last year while trading for Jeffrey Simmons, the true bona fide, gem of this class that I brought into the Washington Commanders. So if you guys enjoy, please like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification, let me know if I want to post next, and let me know in the comments down below what you rate this offseason and what you would do differently. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys later. Peace and bye.